Hey, good evening, everybody. How are you? This is Freddie Ewan, two-time GM of the Year, Pantheon Cup champion, host of that fantasy football show with the man, the myth, the legend, Dr. Podcast, Freddie Ewan. I hope everyone is having a great Monday night. Boy, time goes fast. I've been a little bit off, moving into a new place, all kinds of things, day job. I'd love to, just quit my day job and become a professional fantasy football player, but I don't know if that's happening in the future. I don't know how these guys do it, but I mean, that would be the life being a professional fantasy sports player or a DraftKings guy or something. I think you have to have a pretty decent sized bankroll to do that. Anyway, week 11 is in the books. We have one, two, three games left in the regular season for fantasy football. The playoffs start. Most of the trade deadlines are already done by now, so you're starting to get a little bit of an idea who your team is, what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. Um, there's some 8 playoff team leagues. There's some 6 playoff team leagues. I am pretty much looks like I'm in 5 leagues. Probably going to make the playoffs. In 3 of them are probably a definite. One I am on the fringe, and one I'm definitely not. So that's usually my gold standard for the year. And DraftKings doing a lot of best ball tournaments. I was doing really well at one point, except for this week. There were a lot of guys that went off that I did not have. We're going to talk about what happened this week. A lot of interesting things have happened in week 11, and hopefully this will help you get ready for the fantasy playoffs coming up really soon. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. Hopefully you can see this. Anthony Richardson, what an interesting story. They benched this dude for 2 games. They put in Flacco. Flacco does so, not a whole lot of fantasy points, but then they put Richardson back in the game, and Richardson was unconscious yesterday. Unbelievable game by Anthony Richardson. He is on waivers in a lot of leagues right now. 28.08 points by Anthony Richardson, including 2 rushing touchdowns. This is going to probably be the #1 waiver wire candidate right now. Of course, he played the Jets. The Jets do have a decent defense too, so it's going to be interesting to watch this guy. But is this a waiver wire guy? If you guys need a quarterback right now, I know I need a quarterback in a couple leagues. This is probably someone that you want to pick up because it looks like benching Shane Steichen is a hell of a coach. He was the offensive coordinator in Philadelphia when they went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and really knows what to do with quarterbacks. And I sometimes you just got to let a guy know that his job might be on the line, and they put him back in and got Richardson's been unbelievable. It's only 1 game, but he's been unbelievable. He was really good his rookie season before he got hurt. So, but this is a guy that you want to pick up and grab on the waiver wires. Very, very, very interesting. Over to #2, and this is some interesting news. This dude right here, Brock Bowers. I mean, this guy has been something else yesterday, all season long, pretty much, rookie of the year offensively. Bowers, I think, has to be in the shoot for it. Raiders did not do very well yesterday. They lost 34-19 to the Miami Dolphins. But just to give you, this guy's got Gardner Minshew throwing him the ball. 16 targets, 13 receptions, 126 yards, and a touchdown. When you're throwing to your tight end 16 times, you're probably losing games. But if you have that tight end, you're probably in really good shape right now. He is the #1 overall tight end as a rookie. He was a big guy coming out of Georgia. Everyone thought he was going to be a top 10 pick. I don't know. I think he might have went a little. I'm not sure where I know he went in the top 15, but the guy is, Bowers is going to be something. Brock is going to be something else. This guy might be the next Travis Kelce as far as tight ends are concerned. And just unbelievable. Your possible rookie of the year. Now that Jane Daniels is slowing down a little bit. Negative yesterday. The Chiefs lose their first game. If you're a Chiefs fan, unfortunately, they are not going to be the '72 Miami Dolphins. Patrick Mahomes has been, a lot of guys, they get that, Patrick Mahomes has been in a lot of commercials. He's won 2 Super Bowls, countless MVP awards. I'm sorry, he's won 3 Super Bowls, countless MVP awards. The guy is something else. He knows how to win big playoff games. Patrick Mahomes has not been a very good fantasy football player over the last 3 years. 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, only threw for 196 yards. The big problem here is the receivers. The wide receivers is a mess in Kansas City, just a total mess. Um, Xavier Worthy had 4 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown. Worthy is one of those guys that can break long. He did that in week one during the regular season, but he finally had his good game in weeks. DeAndre Hopkins, 3 receptions, 29 yards. They had Justin Watson out there for a little bit, 2 receptions, 26 yards. Miko Hardman, 2 receptions. This guy I never heard of. Peyton Hendershot had a reception. Juju came in, and the first game he played with Kansas City, or the first game where he got time, he had like 136 yards and a touchdown. Juju hasn't been anywhere close to that. Travis Kelce, while we're on that too, only had 2 receptions for 8 yards. Chiefs do lose. Hopkins has not really been Hopkins got traded at the trading deadline. Everyone thought was going to be really big news for Kansas City, that he was going to be, doing super things. But Hopkins has really not done much for Kansas City. He had one good game a couple weeks ago, but I think, this is probably what you're going to get out of Kansas City for the rest of the time. And with Mahomes, is there's not going to be a really go-to wide receiver. Now that Rashee Rice is gone, they were unstoppable with Rashee, but now that he is on the bench, gonna be interesting. Kareem Hunt has done a good job at halfback, but I hear that Pacheco is coming back. So if you have Pacheco on your IR somewhere and you're a playoff team, that might be something to look at. Moving on to Jawan Jennings. What a performance yesterday. 10 receptions, 91 yards, and a touchdown. Second straight top 15 fantasy performance. Outscores Deebo Samuel again. CMC was in the game. CMC did okay. I don't think CMC did too much. The Seahawks did beat the 49ers. CMC had 19 carries, 79 yards, and 4 receptions, 27 yards. So that's a bad CMC game. Still getting back into it. But another guy that a lot of teams did not do well who drafted CMC with their first pick. If you're still in the playoff hunt, it's good to have him right now. But really, Jawan Jennings is some guy. He had a great game. I think it was in like weeks 4 or 5, and then really didn't do much. A lot of teams dropped him with waivers, with them getting healthy again. But now this is the man, and he's still available on a couple waiver wires to go ahead and chop this guy up and try to find him. Let's go to a negative here. Kyron Williams. Ooh, Kyron Williams has been really good all year long, except for the last couple weeks. He has been really, really rough. They got to go up against a tough Eagles defense next week, especially with the run. Kyron Williams, 15 carries, 86 yards. Not bad, but he didn't get in the end zone, so he didn't put up a whole lot of points. He had no receptions. He was at scoring in every game this season, has not scored in the last 3 games. Got a guy that I was watching, he's got a really deep team. Was watching him yesterday start Kyron Williams, and he's sitting there with James Cook on the bench, and I'm thinking like this is going to be a James Cook game between Buffalo and in Kansas City, and shockingly, he kept Williams on the he kept Ryan Williams, and ended up losing the game. If he had put Cook in, I think he might have won. But Williams is going to be a guy that you really want to monitor. I think if this trend continues, especially now that they got the wide receivers back with Puka and Kupp. Puka had 7 receptions, 123 yards. And a touchdown. Kupp had 6 receptions, 106 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Rams are going to be throwing the ball a lot more. Sean McVay loves to throw the ball around, so I think you really have to keep an eye on Kyron Williams right now. You start anyone on this team except not named Sam Laporta, it looks like you are in good shape right now. The Detroit Lions, offense and defense, they played the Jaguars, and the Jaguars are awful, but the Lions have been lights out, unbelievable. They look like the best team in the NFL. They are the favorite to win the Super Bowl right now in Vegas. Jared Goff is an MVP favorite, great guy. I think he should be. I love Jared Goff. 412 yards yesterday, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Montgomery runs for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. Gibbs has 69 yards and a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 11 targets, 11 receptions, 161 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jameson Williams caught the ball 4 times, but had 124 yards and a touchdown, 31 yards, had a 64-yard bank. Gibbs also had a 54-yard catch. Really, if you started that core group in Detroit, I would just keep rocking them every week. Detroit's putting some points on the board. That's what you want. You want to have teams any position where they're putting points on the board, that's how you're going to win your fantasy games. This guy going to next, he is not available on a lot of waiver wires. People have been smart and picked him up, but Bo Nix is coming around really quickly. I mean, I don't even know what the Broncos are like. The Broncos are 6-5, which is pretty good for the Denver Broncos, better than what we would expect. Let me see if I could just find this score right here and get the stats up. Falcons 38-6. They just smack the Falcons. If you, I know, guys started Cousins, London yesterday, Robinson, oh, horrible games. It is hard to start players against that Denver defense, especially receivers. I would not start any receiver right now going up against that Denver defense. Even if it's like your top-notch guy, you've seen the Denver secondary shut down receiver after receiver after receiver. And it's not just Surtain. It's not just who Surtain's on. It's every receiver. Their secondary is playing lights out. As far as the offense goes, Bo Nix, 4 touchdown passes yesterday, 307 yards. Javonte Williams got a little bit back on track. He had 9 carries, 59 yards, and a touchdown. Cortland Sutton, 7 receptions, 78 yards. Devon Bailey, he was the guy who was, on waivers. He's still on waivers. Probably a good pickup. 4 receptions, 66 yards. He's probably a flyer who's going to get you a couple points. Little Jordan Humphrey had four receptions, 52 yards, and a touchdown. Marvin Mims even had a touchdown. I didn't even know that guy was still in the league. But right now I think that really they got a whole different group of guys in Denver playing. But Sutton and Nix are definite starters right now. Nix is probably still matchup defensive, but he has, over the last 4 weeks, he's had 2 top 5 finishes. Really has been something else. Talking about this guy, I started this guy all over the place yesterday, and just, regret that I did it big time. Almost caught me a couple games. Russell Wilson was just, hey, the Steelers got the win. That's what matters. It was an ugly, typical AFC North game. Lots of defense, lots of field goals being kicked at, et cetera, et cetera. Lamar Jackson was awful. 207 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Derrick Henry didn't really get going. He had 13 carries. He did have a touchdown, 65 yards. Isaiah Likely comes in, 4 receptions, 75 yards. Mark Andrews, 2 receptions, 22 yards. Zay Flowers had a touchdown, but really not much from the Ravens. Steelers, on the other hand, Russell Wilson, I thought was going to have a big game because the Ravens have given up a lot of points in the passing game. Russell Wilson was awful, though. 205 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. Najee Harris wasn't that good either. Pickens, everyone was looking at Pickens to play that he was going to be have a huge game, and really didn't play that bad. He was targeted 12 times, 8 receptions, and 89 yards. So if you start Pickens, you were probably happy with that. But, a lot of people started Russell Wilson on a flyer this week. I put him in because of Jordan Love, because the Bears secondary has been really good this week, but Wilson was just absolutely awful. And I probably won't start the guy again. A lot of things I've seen, a lot of people were telling me today that, hey, T. Higgins was coming back from injury. I put him on the bench, and looks what happens. Bengals, God, the Bengals are, the Bengals offense is really, really good, and their defense is absolutely awful. But I think the Bengals are still, Burrow, 3 touchdowns, 356 yards. Chase Brown didn't have one of his, diabolical games, but he did have 22 carries, 86 yards. T. Higgins, unbelievable, 9 receptions, 148 yards, a touchdown, targeted 13 times. Chase, again, Jamar Chase has to be the best wide receiver in the NFL in fantasy terms right now. 7 receptions, 75 yards, and 2 touchdowns. If you got Jamar Chase on your team, hold on to him. You could stack him with Burrow. That's even better because these guys, they have a horrible defense. They lost yesterday to the Chargers, 34-27. They're going to give up a lot of points. They're going to be high scoring games. Get those Bengals players in ASAP. And last but not least, this guy is a legend. This guy, I don't even know where you put this guy. I don't even know who started him. I'm going to see interested. I saw one guy, who started him in a league of mine, and it's just, it's like Taysom Hill. This guy is a quarterback, a wide receiver, a running back, an offensive tackle. They list him as a tight end, and one of the things that everyone had talked about a couple years ago when he was playing both quarterback. He was playing a good majority of quarterback. I think he started quarterback for a couple games like 3 or 4 years ago. And he was listed as a tight end, but you get quarterback points for it. So anyone who had him, he was like the cheat code almost because you get passing touchdowns and XXX and didn't really know what to do with them. Tayson Hill yesterday, just to give you a couple stats on him, he only threw two passes and he did throw an interception. Tayson Hill only threw two passes, did throw an interception. He had 7 carries for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns, including a 75-yard rush. On top of that, okay, he was targeted 10 times, had 8 receptions and 50 yards. Unbelievable game for Tayson, all over the place. The guy threw, the guy caught, the guy ran. And just to give you the total number of points he had is going to be like, I think at 42 or something points. If you had this guy and you didn't win his fantasy and you didn't win your fantasy game, there was something wrong with you. But this was the guy, this was the Hill that you wanted to start yesterday, not Tyreek. 37.52 points in week 11. Very interesting game tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. Texans and Cowboys, there's a lot of players that are in there playing for tonight. I got Joe Mixon in the game that's playing for tonight. Also, we got the wide receivers. It looks like the man in Houston is going to be back today. Texans are going to have all their wide receivers back, which should be exciting. Collins is, saying he's 100% ready to go. Diggs is still out, but it should be an interesting game. On the other side, the Cowboys are playing absolutely horrible. They got the backup quarterback. Dak is out for the year. CeeDee Lamb owners are probably getting a little bit nervous. I think I need like 4 or 5 points from Rico Dowdle tonight to win a game in a big league. And, I think that's probably iffy right now because the Dallas offense has been so awful. But anyway, if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, it's been a rough year for you. If you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan, life's probably pretty good. Also, if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, life's pretty good as well. New York Giants decided to put their quarterback on the bench, Danny Dimes, for the rest of the year, and Tommy Cutlets is going to be the starting quarterback for the rest of the time in New York. Don't know if that guy's a fantasy pickup. Hope he can connect with neighbors because I got neighbors on a couple things. But anyway, that is it. That's the show. It's good to see everybody again. I hope you enjoyed it and enjoy the game tonight. Thanks a lot, guys.